Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Dogs Down South. Hope you're enjoying your evening. Man, we are live. Hadn't been live in a while, but we got content. It's off season. You probably didn't hear my music. That's how long it's been since I've been live. So no bumper video, nothing. We are fresh in here. So sorry for the technical difficulties, but we're gonna roll with it. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you go and like and follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Dogs Down South, TikTok, Dogs Down South. And we're excited. We're getting closer and closer to, we're just kind of counting down to get to fall practice, right? Because we just came out of spring. Now we're headed into the summer, the long, daunting summer of trying to find content and things to do while we wait on our first game. I'm going to bring in my man Richman tonight. Richman, thanks for joining. How are you, buddy?
Good, man.
It's been so long that I just forgot our intro music, man. But you know what?
Let her rip. Roll with it. Let her rip, tater chip.
Let her rip, man. Here we are, man. So good. So good. Hey, man, let's hop right in. We got so much to talk about. When we have content, it's like, let's hop on it. Want to hop straight in tonight, talk about Jared Curtis. So obviously we were hanging by a thread today on Jackson Cantwell, big 6'8", 300+ pound kid that it was between Georgia and Miami. And why am I talking about him with Jared Curtis? Because a lot of people thought that once Curtis committed, that Cantwell would be right behind. But as we're going to discuss tonight, NIL has a weird way of changing that around, man. Dollars sometimes speak volumes over, opportunity at a team like at a school like Georgia, with an organization like Georgia has. But he chose to be a Hurricane, and he chased $2 million a year, from what I understand. And so we wish him the best of luck. But Jared Curtis, really quick, Rich, man, let's talk about Jared Curtis. I'm hearing first things that a lot of comparisons, right? I remember sitting in my living room and hearing Matthew Stafford's name called as a 5-star quarterback recruit for Georgia, and you just don't see it much at Georgia. And I don't know if it's because of the lack of 5 stars to go around, or just because you feel that Georgia has never been one of those we just get 5-star quarterback schools, but we do a lot with a little, and we do a great job with development. But this is a different scenario in what Jared Curtis brings. A lot of people are saying this guy is as close to Matthew Stafford as anybody has seen. He's a hometown guy. He was recruited very heavily and decommitted from Georgia. And I think one of the biggest things that sold his parents was the fact that once he decommitted, Mike Bobo and Georgia did not change any tune to him. He was a target. He was a known target. And this is very interesting. Richman, chime in. Tell me what you know about Jared Curtis, what you're excited for with Jared Curtis.
Dude, I'm excited. I was reading a little bit about his legs, man. So he's a dual threat, and that was impressive. I mean, have a 5-star arm, but also be able to move around a little bit. Man, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about 5-star quarterbacks, that is something that we have not been able to accomplish, in my opinion, without, I would say, stumbling across it. When you look at Stetson, right? Stetson was a guy that wasn't like heavily recruited. I think we got a guy who was a gamer. We tapped in, Todd Monken tapped into the gutsiness of Stetson Bennett. He had legs. He had a good enough arm for the SEC, and he was a dog, right? He did his time. He left to try to find a little playing time. Came back and just really did.
He's still hanging on in the pros.
Yeah, he did some time at Georgia, and I think when you look at time and you look at the value of an experienced quarterback or somebody who's in the system, it's beginning to be something you don't see, and it's very crucial right now, in my opinion, in the future of NIL. But Jared Curtis brings a lot of things. What I like most about Jared Curtis, and you tell me about this too, is that he, as early as his freshman year, threw for Georgia. And to what I understand, Georgia was not the highest bidder. Oregon had a lot of money on the table for Jared Curtis. You got Nike branding all behind that. You have NIL, you have the collective at Oregon, and Dan Lanning's a good guy, man. He's a guy that I would say would be in my top 3. If God forbid anything ever happened to Kirby, I would be saying, get me Dan Lanning in a heartbeat. I love Dan Lanning when he was here, and he's a dude. He's somebody that every time you see a coaching opening in the SEC, you just hope and pray that he's happy at Oregon, right? Because he's not a guy I want to see across from the other sideline. But the commitment was based off a lot about, I mean, do you think it was more of Bobo? Because I'm going to be honest too, man. You got parents who are from Georgia. You look at Oregon, and when you hop on an airplane and you head out to, you can't land in Eugene. So you're landing in Portland, and you got a 2-hour drive in there. And you're talking about your parents having to be on a plane at least 6 or 7 times a year for games. And then if you want to see your kid, it's 3 or 4 others. But I think a lot of that had to do with the distance, but I also think that it was interesting to know that Georgia was not the highest bidder. What does that kind of tell you about the integrity of what's going on with Georgia recruiting right now?
Dude, I think whenever you see a kid that is highly sought after and he is leaning towards Georgia, that says a lot to either A, his integrity, or B, he wants to get developed. I mean, that's something you're hearing all of these pro scouts say. The guys coming out of Georgia are ready to play. So a kid that's thinking long term, that's going to be something that's appealing. And we know we're not throwing as much money on the table as everybody else.
Yeah. I'm going to give you some scenarios here, and these are maybe for our listeners, maybe something they know or don't know. But so I'm hearing that $40 million is what one of our teams in the SEC has spent on their roster this year. But I'm also hearing that that $40 million is also not the highest in the SEC. Do you know who the 2 teams that have spent $40+ million on their roster this year is?
Texas.
Texas is definitely one. Yep.
And another team in the SEC?
Yeah.
Texas A&M?
No. Well, crazily enough, I would say there's a lot of money there. Give you one more guess.
Dude, I don't have a clue.
It's our boys down in Baton Rouge. LSU has spent over $40 million on their roster this year. This is the guy that said last year he's going to put some of his paycheck into his NIL collective, Mr. Brian Kelly. And we're going to preview all these teams over the summer to give us something to do and talk about and content. It's always a fun time to kind of get out into the SEC and kind of preview who we're going to see this year. But
dude, how many mud bugs do they have to sell to raise $40 million?
I don't know, man. But it kind of gives you that drastic, is this the year, right? I've heard a lot about Nussmeier, and, Nussmeier might be the best quarterback to come off the board. Yeah, so, they spent a lot of money on, offensive line, defensive line. The defense looked better last year. So it makes me think that, I don't know, it makes me think that Brian Kelly possibly looks at this year and goes, how much pressure is going to be on me if I don't make the playoffs? Because I'll be honest with you, when you spend $40 million, I think the low end of the expectation is to, especially in a 2 and 3 loss possibility now for SEC teams to still get to a playoff. If you don't make the playoffs and you spent $40 million, there's a lot of heat. There's a lot of heat coming your way. But if you don't make, I think Kelly was starting to get to the point of, if I don't make the playoffs, period, am I going to get heat anyway? Because you got Nussmeier, you have a lot of guys coming back from that LSU team last year. And so I wasn't shocked about Texas, but I was a little shocked about LSU, especially from a coach that was like, I need to put money into our collective.
That's, I'm a bit startled too. I mean, wouldn't have thought LSU would have pulled that much money out down there.
It's Brian Kelly, man. I think it's getting drastic, man. You got to think, where does Brian Kelly go after LSU? Is this it for him? He left Notre Dame to come to LSU and win the big one.
I don't, and I mean, he came. Yeah, he left.
He's grasping it. He's grasping at straws, and I think this is it, man. You know, you got your quarterback, you got your running back, you got somewhat of your offensive line back, you got a little bit back on defense, you got your guy at coach, you know, coaching the defense over there. This is it. So I think this is playoffs. This is minimum
defend
playoffs.
him, but I think this NIL and these portals have hurt him as much as anybody, because he went to a storied university that has won national championships, and they've got so much talent down there. If you can get them in there and hold them,
yeah,
I'm sure that's what he was thinking when he came. Hey, they got so much talent. I can get them in there and develop them, and I can produce championship football. And that hasn't happened.
Yeah. Well, and this was the guy that said, we're never going to break the bank to pay players. This is just last year, Richman. Brian Kelly is on the record somewhere saying we're never going to pay that much money for a roster. And then here you go, not even, less than 365 days later.
All of them are going to say that, but if they've got the money, in their hip pocket, it's like walking into the casino, I'm not telling them how much money I got in my back pocket, but I'll tell everybody I'm not going to blow everything I got. But you get to the table and you got all that money. When you walk out of there, you got none.
Exactly. And I don't think that you have the leadway anymore to be like, we're not going to spend money, because when spending money is the name of the game now, and I think that's what NIL and the portal is now, and recruiting is not, recruiting is not something that's the problem right now. I think
they got to figure out how to tie these guys down with contracts.
Yes.
And slow that.
The recruiting's not the problem. It's the portal. The portal's the problem. And we're going to talk about what may could fix this, but the portal is the problem. Recruiting, I think we all agree that when some of these coaches and they go into these houses with these kids, and I've heard the stories of these coaches that go into these houses, and some of these floors of these houses and places they go where families, 2 or 3 families, are living together, and the floors of these houses are caving in under their feet. And you look and they go, okay, this guy's just going to come out of here and he's going to get a good education, which is great, but he's going to he's going to put a lot of, butts in the seat. So yeah, man, they deserve this. I'd love to come back here and see this family being able to, draw from the talent of their son, maybe correct some of these. That's the telltale stories that are so good, right? But you also hear of the ones where their families are sticking their nose in the money piece, manipulating the system. Let's talk really quick. Let's transition, because I talked a little bit about it a couple weeks ago, but I didn't put this episode up. But Nico and Manny Iamaleava, you got Nico, who went obviously to UCLA. You got Manny who left Arkansas, goes there, and they just go, we're the next. You got Iamaleavas for the next 2-3 years, right? But here's my thing: how much of a mistake, Richman, was it that Nico did that? Let's dig into it. How big of a mistake do you think it was?
I think it's a huge mistake. I've seen where he's taken an $800,000 cut because after the taxes come out and after what he is getting there, compared to if he had just stayed at Tennessee.
Yeah. But also think about it, Richman. What if you it's the way you did it, right? The portal didn't set him. The portal set him up for failure. But if you take away that spring window, there is no way that Nico Iamaleava can ever go anywhere near the Tennessee fan base or Nashville or Tennessee in any of his endeavors the rest of his life, and it'd be okay, man. Money and school only last for so long at a certain point, but the relationships and what you've done now that you severed in a Tennessee, in a fan base like Tennessee.
Well, let's take it to the next step. If he doesn't go to UCLA and play unbelievable football, what do you think the pro scouts, what are they going to say about his value system?
Well, not even that. Not even that. You don't think he's going to pay for that decision, Richman? Here we are. You don't think they're going to he's going to sit in front of a scout and they go, hey man, how can I ever, like, he's going to be able to spin it like he wants. But my question, if I'm a scout, is so what were you thinking when you decided to choose that time frame? And tell me it wasn't about you.
Yeah.
You did it. You did it the day before you're supposed to be playing in a spring game.
That's
So
right.
tell me how you're going to spin it to where I can believe that your character is about team and not about me. I don't know how he answers that question. And here's the thing: 3, 4, 5 spots in the NFL draft is tens of millions of dollars. Like, I just think we're making really bad decisions, and the NCAA is setting these kids up for failure. That spring window has got to go away. It's got to go away.
Man, you're going to 10, 15 years from now, you're going to see a lot of athletes that are broke, probably didn't graduate from college, and are bitter because they were not set up for success.
Mhm.
And that's why Saban got out of it. Because, Saban used to say all the time, I'm not necessarily trying to create successful pro athletes. I want to have successful fathers, successful professionals, successful in life.
Right.
I want these young men to become successful citizens, and I don't think we're setting these kids up for success down the road. I think that a lot of them, they're going to blow through the money. They're not going to graduate from college. And they're not going to make it in the pros. And because they didn't get developed, and a lot of, that's one of the interesting things, you start watching. I don't know how long it's been since I started paying attention to the pro draft, but there's so many of those intangibles that they're trying to figure out is the intangibles. And those intangibles tend to be the money,
Yeah.
and they're looking for the kids that have the right values. Is it me first or team first? And on from there. But I think you're going to see just a ton of athletes down the road that are just like a lost generation.
Yeah,
And
I agree. And
you got to look back at this NIL money, too much money, and open portal. You can blame it on that. And they should all get paid. And I said that a long time ago. But the money they're throwing around is crazy money.
Yeah, and
the money they're throwing around is a distraction.
Yeah. And the coaches, man, what's the longevity of the coaches? How many years can these coaches actually want to stay in the game and go, it's so hard to build a roster in college, right? And to create buy-in and culture. And then you're going to tell these guys, oh, and by the way, your roster can flip not once, but twice every year. Ted, it's just not going to happen.
Ted, I had a friend of mine that was coaching 8-year-olds in Ackworth, Georgia 10 years ago. And he said they had something online and they were already grading these kids out and telling these kids that they were going to be 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. They were going to go pro. And he's like, these 8-year-olds were reading this stuff. And he goes, they're beginning to not want to get coached.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was 10 years ago in Ackworth, Georgia. And I'm like, look at it now. What happens when you take a 17-year-old and throw $1 million, $2 million at them? Do they really want to get coached, or do they know it all now? Because the money says they know it all.
Yeah, and Kirby's doing a really good job of that this year. I mean, you did hear a lot about kids. I think Kirby was using – a lot of people attributed Kirby to what's going on with Georgia, but I think Kirby knows the assignment. I think he knows that he's the voice of the SEC now, and he has to speak indirectly through his team right now. And he has to speak just like Nick used to speak at Alabama when he would say, hey, here's what's going on with my team, and I need you to read between the lines because I'm not interested in being a person who is the reason why NIL. I don't want to be the name behind why NIL changed. I just want to be the fire starter to be like, this is not working. This is not working, and I'm going to tell you why it's not working with my team, but also I'm screaming for every college football coach in America because they're experiencing the same thing. It's not fun anymore. And Kirby does it really well, man. Like you listen to a lot of coaches and you see a lot of these coaches that are not present with their families, that are constantly on the road, their phones going off. And, there's already coaches. I mean, some people you look and they go, well, why is Glenn Schumann not taking a head coaching position right now? Well, I want you to look, where did Glenn Schumann come from? Now, Glenn Schumann did not play college football. He was a student of the game. He came right behind Kirby. So he was in Kirby's room, his linebacker room at Alabama. And he learned everything Kirby had to offer. He watched Kirby turn down tons of positions as a coordinator. He watched Kirby make the right decision at the right time. And he's also seeing to himself, he's like, I don't know if I want to make those decisions right now. I don't know if I want to. And guess what? Coordinators are making $2-3 million a year. So am I just good? Like, am I good? Because there's a lot of times where you look and you go, those phone calls, they're a lot worse than they are good every day. And that phone blows up. I'm sure Kirby takes 10 phone calls to 1 that are bad every single day. But to see the guy he is and to see how present he is at his home and with his family, and when he's in, he's in. And when he's out, obviously, he's out. His team, his coaches are family to them, but how involved they are in the organization. It's a marriage that is unheard of. And I know that NIL is making some cracks in these relationships all across America with these coaches. And I'm just concerned about the health of college football for so many reasons, but that being another one of them. It's like these coaches work so hard, and to have their rosters upended not once, but twice a year is unfair. And it's unfair to the fan base, and it's unfair to the pageantry of college football.
And it's ultimately unfair to the kids.
Yeah.
Because we were raised in an environment where we came along, and it's like you stick with it.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't quit, man.
You don't
There's
quit.
no quitting. You start something, you stick with it. Yeah. So I got a couple things here. I want to see what you think about them. So I thought it would be cool. We're going to talk about transfer portal, and we're going to talk about some other things before we end the show tonight. But I thought it would be cool. So I have a little like a fix. What if it looked like this? Would this be fair? You tell me what you think about it, Richman. So incoming freshmen, right? I think contracts are the way to go with incoming freshmen. They're young. They need to be able to commit to something. They're not there quite yet with being able to understand what's being thrown at them. So what an easier way to balance the playing field, develop relationship of people coming to teams because of the right reasons. And what if just sign a contract? Incoming freshman, when you come in, the only way you can take money is by signing a contract. And once you do that, you can transfer out your sophomore year, but it's only if you fall under the appearances of redshirt. So for instance, if you take money, you have to stay. And the only way you can transfer out your sophomore year is if you did not exceed the red shirt rule, which means if you did not play enough snaps to where you feel like you got a good shot at what you thought you were going to come in here and do, then yeah, you can go shop. But like, for instance, I can't go be so Nate Frazier. Nate Frazier can't have a really good year like he did last year, play in every single game. He appeared in every single game. And then all of a sudden he feels like that he can go make a ton of money somewhere because somebody needs a running back, and then just go, you know what? I'm out. No, because you've exceeded the red shirt rule. You've taken money and you've committed to Georgia. So I think you should have to be done. Now, that's just the first layer. Any tweaks? What do you think you would add or take away from that?
Well,
or do you think contracts are not the answer?
No, I think contracts are the answer. But also, I think if you're moving out after your freshman year, you need to sit. So
Funny you should say that.
Your eligibility.
So sophomores, juniors, same rules apply. If you took money, and if you decide to go somewhere else, you can only do it one time.
Yeah.
You can only do it one time. That's it. Like, you're done. Every other time you got to sit. So if you're a sophomore or a junior, didn't say senior, because I think seniors fall up under, if you're a senior, and you have years of eligibility left, you're open and you can improve your draft stock, and you have not played under the redshirt rule, no penalty. You can go do what you want to. And if you're a graduate, do what you want to. If you graduated.
I agree with those two. That actually, I agree with those two. I think that wouldn't bother me if that was the only way they could go. Or,
well, I think if you're a sophomore, junior, the only way it applies is you can do it once. And I'm fine with that. Like, you don't like Georgia, that's fine. You go play for Ohio State, that better be your highest bidder because it's your only bidder.
Let me ask you this. So if you put something in place like this, that's going to make the recruiting more interesting because now the players can have their cake and eat it too. Oh, I can go over here and get $3 million, and if I don't really like it, then I can come back to another place where I can get developed better because they've got a coach that works,
Not the second time. So if you're a sophomore or a junior, right, and you signed for money and you did not play over the redshirted amount of hours, you can go to the highest bidder. Ohio State wants to give you $2 million a year, and you go. That's fine. You're good. The next time that you're not happy or you don't like your playing time or anything like that, if you choose to go to the junior year, if you choose to go to Texas A&M, you can, but you got to sit out a year because you've already transferred. And here's my thing, because right now you can literally, as a freshman, you can come in, not play. You can get through the year, and in December you can go, I'm out, and you can hop in the portal and you can go to, let's say I'm at Georgia, and I can go right now. I can go to Texas, and then I get into Texas in the fall. In the winter semester, right? I'm going in winter, January. I'm signing an NIL deal, right? I go to spring. I don't like what it looks like. I immediately, after spring is over, I can hop in the portal again. I can do that. I have the right.
That's what's going on now. They can eat their cake, have their cake and eat it too, and it's not fair.
But you can leave Georgia, and in January you can go sign with Ohio State. But then when you decide, I don't really like how this is going, and you hit the spring portal and you go, Texas offered me more money, you can go to Texas. But do you know how valuable a year's worth of time sitting and not being able to play is? That will make it a little bit more appealing to players to be like, all right, I got to make either the right decision because I only got one. And you can't make it multiple times. You get one shot, man. You get one shot before you become a senior. We're talking freshman, sophomore, junior. When you become a senior, if you did not play over the redshirt available average, in other words, if you could be redshirted by that school, you can go anywhere you want. I'm fine with it. It's just late in your career. It's just like you got one good shot to give them your last good bit of effort, right? And if you're graduated, you're free. If you got eligibility left and you're graduated, so be it. You've committed to the school. You've done your time with the school. You've walked and got your papers from that university. Go do what you got to do.
I agree. I like it, man. That's something like that needs to be in play.
The one transfer rule will be the key. That's where you're like. I think that's what locks it down. And the contracts for freshmen, I think, is key because here's my thing. I just like that. Collective is fine. You want to go offer a kid to go make a commercial for Cane's, go sell, Jersey Outfitters or whatever, hunting gear, whatever you want to do, that's fine. But when you come in as a freshman, every single freshman that ever signs the dotted line is going to get a set fee. If it's $1 million, if it's $500,000, whatever it is, everybody gets the same thing. I mean, think about it. It's fair. You're getting paid to play, and maybe you can have the option to re-up it your sophomore year. But when you come in as a freshman, there's a good chance that a lot of these universities are spending money on you, and you may never pan out to be on the field. They're committing to giving you money without ever taking a snap. That, to me, that's priceless. And you still have the option your sophomore year to be like, I'm out. And the university wins because they can go find somebody and get rid of that spring portal thing. Because let me just tell you, Tennessee is screwed. I mean, I don't know about this Aguilar guy coming in from from App State. I've heard good things about him, but I mean,
But
dude,
it's still a new
talk about a
system.
portal window screwing you, man. Like,
I mean, yeah, I mean he hasn't even gotten a chance to go through spring practice, and it's a new system,
yeah, and you
new
got a Tennessee
players,
fan
new
base.
everything.
You got a Tennessee fan base who was looking towards a quarterback that's been in the system for 2 years, and now you're
They were
talking
going to be a
about
contender this year. I mean, they were going to be.
that a lot has changed, man. And you're giving this university, all of a sudden, all the barking and complaining. And I'm not saying it's from everybody, but when you look at, and we're gonna believe me, like we're gonna peck away at this quarterback list very soon. But you look at Gunnar Stockton, and if you're Georgia, you're sitting here going, I got a guy that's in this system for 3 years, buddy. I think I'm sitting pretty damn good. I like what I got. You know, I got a guy who has invested in this system for 3 years, right? And we're going to talk about Gunnar in a minute because we're going to ask a question about him. But I just think there has to be something like this. Because right now, the coaches are just telling you it's wild. It's way too wild. I mean, you just witnessed. I mean, let me tell you something. You cut out that portal window in the spring, guess what comes back? Spring games. All the spring games come back. As soon as you cut that portal window out, because they're assured nobody's going to put their team out there on TV when they have a risk of doing a Nico Iamaleava and losing your starting quarterback with nothing in the cupboard 3 months before your season even starts. They're just not. They're not putting it on TV, man.
Crazy, man.
It's wild. Speaking of transfers, let's transition. So I don't know if we really know where we're at. Let's look at everything Georgia lost. So I think this is a really big snapshot of it. So cornerback Julian Humphrey obviously went to Texas A&M. Michael Jackson, wide receiver, he's still in the portal right now. I think he's actually signed since then. I think he's at Purdue. A lot of people went to Purdue. Defensive tackle Jamal Jarrett went to USC. Defensive back Justin Rhett, Nebraska. Outside linebacker Samuel Mpemba, Texas A&M. Inside linebacker Troy Bowles went to Michigan. Safety Jake Pope went and joined Dan Mullen out in UNLV. Wide receiver Anthony Evans to Mississippi State. Man, that was a money stab, right? You were returning punts for Georgia, and I don't know, man. We're going to talk in a little bit, but that's a money ploy because Mississippi State's going to be brutal this year, man. Jaden Rashada, I think he entered the portal in Sacramento State is what I'm hearing.
Wow.
I don't know, man. Outside linebacker Damon Wilson, Missouri. That one was wild to me. Colin Gill transferred to Charlotte. Quarterback Carson Beck transferred to Miami. Running back Branson Robinson ended up with my man Del McGee at Georgia State. I like that for him. I really like that for Branson. Branson's
he tears it up there.
Yeah, I hope he does too. Really, really good, man. Good stuff. Wide receiver Nitro Tuggle, and then offensive line Marquise Easley both entered the portal. They both ended up at Purdue. What sticks out to you about this list, Richman?
Oh man, I don't know, man. I mean that's a lot of people that went a lot of different places. Makes me wonder if were they encouraged to go, or I know some of them weren't. Some of them were a little surprising. Some of the linebackers.
Well, I told you that Nitro Tuggle, he would be. I mean, a lot of people were like, "What's going on with Nitro Tuggle?" I can tell you, as soon as he decided to drive over 100 miles per hour, Kirby sat him down and said, "You might want to start looking at your NIL deals.
I'm sure
because you're not going to be receiving money from us anymore."
Sure, he was invited to leave.
Yes. So, and Kirby was probably like, "Look, I can only control what I can control because the media is out there. But the best thing you can do is hit the portal and hopefully that they look at it. Everybody's going to see the writing on the wall." But him and Easley were. I mean, we can tell where Kirby's at right now with this whole reckless driving stuff going on. I mean, if you hadn't already noticed, he's pretty much done. I mean, he's willing to call the name from the top to the bottom. Let's look at the interesting thing and talk about, well, what are these new names we're going to see on the field and who replaced them, right? So your obvious ones that everybody's been looking at. We got a chance to see them during spring. Safety Zion Branch and brother Zach Branch or Zachariah Branch, both from USC. Safety Jaden Harris came to us from Miami. UAB safety Adrian Maddox, Texas A&M wide receiver Noah Thomas, running back from Vanderbilt Micah Bell, outside linebacker from Army Elo Madozi, defensive line Joshua Horton from Miami, and the Illinois running back Joshua McCray. The three ones that stick out for me, Richman, are I think for me it's the Madozi, right? We needed some depth at end, right? We were thin down there with Quintavious Johnson and a couple other guys that just didn't dress for spring. But Madozi is a guy that came to us from Army, very, very long, coming off an exceptional season. He played all 14 games, 17 solo tackles, 34 assists, 8 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. Long arms, kind of has a little bit more of a slim Michael body type. I think what you saw here was like a body type, right? It's something that Georgia really liked. I think you mentioned a little bit about a little bit much like the undersized and obviously playing in Conference USA. I think Army plays in Conference USA still, right? Or do they move to?
One of the things I think I read was that, like, they're saying he's probably going to be on the rundowns, more like Chaz.
Right.
And, not so much on passing downs.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, with that build, they can develop with the long arms.
Yeah.
And they work on that technique. He could definitely be a third down pass rusher and to develop that. I mean, he probably not this year, but I mean, I'm looking long term. If he's, I hope he's going to be that good, and I hope he can be developed because with those long arms and the technique, man, that's what you need.
I think Madozi's a plug and play, man. I think he's going to be good. Another person I'm excited about is this Joshua McCray guy.
I'm
kid.
Excited about him, man. We need a bruiser back, and I think that's what he's going to bring.
I think he's going to come in and take some snaps. Not because of, I love our running back room. I think our running back room is really well. But I think when we saw Branson leave and the unknowns, right? Branson was an unknown, and I even spoke about it earlier in the offseason about if you don't know what's going to happen with Rod and Branson, then we do have questions at depth because you need a stable of backs. I think you like what Chauncey's done this offseason. You definitely like what Frazier's done. The thing is who's the guy that gets in there if Rod's not there and is going to hawk down some of those carries that, are just, you need a vet guy. You can put the ball in his hands. And don't get me wrong, we've had a lot of guys that have done really well this offseason. But in my opinion, this was a huge pickup because big 6'1", 235-pound body frame, physical runner. He's tough to bring down.
Yeah, we need a guy that's automatic on we need 3 yards,
Yeah. But the thing is Bo Walker, I'm hearing the same thing about these two guys, right? I don't think he's going to have that elite speed like that Frazier, like once he hits the second, third level, he's going to take off. But I think he's going to be able to carry the ball in some of the situations where if you reverse course, how sometimes we get into that mind frame of going, all right, we're 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and we trust the line, but we just don't trust the fact that we have a guy that can break one tackle. We got to break one, we got to give us an opportunity to get the 2 or 3 and not just at the point of impact. So I like this pickup. Plays in the Big Ten at Illinois, played for a very run heavy offense in Brett Bielema. I like this pickup a lot. I want to see this kid in pads. I think he's going to be very crucial. And then the last guy that I'm going to tell you out of the portal that, we've talked about him, but I'm just telling you, and Noah's going to be great. Noah Thomas from Texas A&M is going to be a great player for us. I keep hearing taller and taller. I'm hearing 6'5" from Noah Thomas, but him and sorry, I had to cough. Him and you know, his height, right, with Zachariah Branch, and he's the guy with Zach Branch. He's a guy that's he is as advertised. He has elite speed. He has great hands. He is going to be an electric game changer. Richman, if the one thing I will tell you that Georgia has done this year that has put us in a better opportunity to compete at a high level, and this year, you know, compete with the Alabamas, and I think physicality wise, we competed with Texas because of that. But I think as far as elite athletes, I think we did the most damage this offseason in seeing what was the difference maker besides O-line last year. And I think it was, we can go back to it time and time again, is the amount of drop passes and the inability to create in the passing game. We need players that you know, that create different scenarios and mismatches, and we didn't have that last year.
Yeah,
and I went back and go ahead.
We need a multiple group that in the red zone that can make things happen, man.
Yeah. And I mean, you saw some packages during G-Day that were Noah Thomas and Colby were in the same package, and it's just going to be hard to cover 6'5" on each side with Zachariah Branch in the slot. It's just going to be hard to cover that, man. Like, there's just so many scenarios where I can see that being a disaster case. And and listen, going out and getting 5-star receivers is always a plus, right? So we signed Jared Curtis this year, and then we went out last year and got Taylor Taylor's. He's for real, man. Like, he's for real. He's turning some heads. He didn't come to Georgia where he's going to be a freshman that's sitting there waiting on his opportunity. When you make opportunity, you're going to see the field. And I have a feeling that they're going to look for packages for all of these guys to make a difference in. And I think that's why the news that I'm hearing, I think that's why Dylan Bell, you saw him a little bit at running back during the spring.
Right.
I think you might see Dylan Bell in a lot more exotic formations where you can get the ball in his hands and he can get creative, because I like Dylan Bell. He had some drops last year. I get it. But it got to where it was toxic last year, the amount of drops that we had. It was almost like it was rubbing off on other players that used to be sure-handed. It was a head thing. It was like, it was a, you walk into the receiver room, and if you talk about it enough every day, you think, well, we don't have a drop problem. We don't have a drop problem. But if you hear it enough every day that we have a drop problem, then you're going to go out there and play like you have a drop problem. And I just feel like some games it was like that. It was like, Dylan Bell's not catching balls, man. This ain't, something's up, But I like how you could see them use Dylan Bell this year, because Dylan Bell's, he's 205 pounds, man. Like, he's got top grade speed. He has great vision. And I think that's what we missed last year. Like a Dylan Bell, we just needed to get the ball in space to Dylan Bell last year, and we couldn't do it. One, for lack of complexity in line play, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But we didn't have that. And maybe because of his inconsistencies, maybe because of maybe he was not in a position where it was like, oh, well, you're in slot or you're playing the X or the Y. And it's like, well, that's not where I'm the most effective, but that's where you're the best fit, right? So I don't know, man. He's intriguing there. But I like McCray. I like Madozie, and the Branch brothers. I've heard the other kid, I heard the Zion Branch kid, the safety, is going to get some looks back there in the secondary. And I heard he looks like a man among boys, dude. I mean, he's a specimen. I haven't physically seen him, definitely not in person, and then not any pictures where he's in a Georgia uniform, but a lot of people said at spring he was a daunting looking athlete.
Well, there's a place back there for a hitter.
I agree wholeheartedly. And we've talked about depth charts, and we're going to break it down to the nuts and bolts before we step on the field. But hey, I got
a question. Have you heard anything on that Josh Horton guy? What is he like?
Big D lineman. Big D lineman out of Miami. Hadn't played much. So a lot of upside, but never really saw the field for Miami because of injuries. Trey Scott recruited him heavily. He played at, I think he played up somewhere in the North Atlanta area. I want to say, man, I remember the school, but it was North Atlanta. But he was just injury prone. So a lot of upside, and I think he just wanted a fresh start. Big body. I think he's going to offer some immediate downs for us.
Good.
But I've heard, I don't want to speak too soon, but I've just heard that Jordan Hall had a really, really, really good spring. And we need that. We need Jordan Hall to have, we need him to be healthy, and we definitely need him to have a good spring because we just got him and Christian Miller have to be on, because we have an opportunity this year to be elite on the defensive line again. I think when Elijah Griffin gets his feet wet, he's a special player. Also took less money to come to Georgia, which screams to you, I understand the assignment, you know? So I'm excited about those guys. I want to talk about, like, really quick, Richman, with the time we have left, we could go over breakout players. We got plenty of time to do that, but let's talk about some hot topic stuff, right? What do you think this year? I mean, when you look at Georgia, right? I was listening to this podcast where they were asking every SEC team, like, what is a boom for your team and what is a bust for your team? In other words, like, for something to be like, man, that's something I can get behind. That's going to explode. That's a boom. Or a bust, meaning, yeah, this is probably more than likely what's going to happen. And for this team, that's a bust, right? And the mention of Georgia, the boom was national championship. I think, regardless of if we want to hear this or not, I think they are still SEC coaches, SEC media, and college football media all around the United States that think that Georgia is another national title contender this year, and they'll probably be picked again in the SEC. However, you might not see them start out in the top 5. We all know those rankings don't mean anything anymore. The playoffs, I mean, you had a 2-loss Ohio State team that spent every penny they had on NIL last year. And if you really go back to it, if there's no playoff last year, Ohio State doesn't even play for the national championship. So we can throw those rankings out. So if Georgia's sitting there at number 6, number 7 to open up the year, there is not any disgruntledness that needs to be thought of. Those are just merely, once again, numbers.
Did you read David Pollock's piece?
I saw where he wrote something, and I did hear people talk about it. What were the nuts and bolts of it?
It's just saying we're not a top 5 team, and we're probably not a contender because of talent. And you know, he just downgraded us pretty big. For me, I think if we're 10-2 and we go in the playoffs, I think we can make a run. But I mean, it's always going to get back to the two things I'm really curious about is, what happens with the offensive line play, because I think we've got skill players all over the place that can get us there. My big question is, what happens with offensive line play this year, and how does Gunner progress? What happens with Gunner? Those are the two variable. That's your XY variable. I don't know what's going to happen with those, but if the offensive line comes along and Gunner improves, and we're 10-2 at the end of the season and go into the playoffs, I don't see why we couldn't make a run for it. I think we'd be a contender.
Well, over and under for Georgia this year is 10 wins. I mean, I think you can look and go, you got Texas at home. And this is a schedule that is a little bit more favorable than last year. I mean, you look at the team we had last year, the questions, I don't think, and we're going to talk about this later on in the summer, but the team we had last year that we were so excited about, this wide receiver room, I think is better.
Oh yeah,
hands down better than last year. I think this line is young, but I think it has potential. And I think we can talk about the line, a whole show we're probably going to dedicate to the line, because we obviously know that it was a problem last year, and I think it deserves its time. obviously, and not just to be blown over, but I think this running back room is better. I think it's healthier, has a chance to be healthier starting the year off this year.
Yeah.
I think,
and it looks like we're going to have more than 2 backs,
yes.
So,
But here's the question that needs to be answered, and we can afford to spend some time on. Is somebody asked me, and I've heard this question multiple times this year, is do you think George is in a better situation, even though Carson Beck had all this arm talent? Do you think George is in a better situation and stands a better chance to be, I guess, to use the word better again, to be a better team this year than they were last year? Now, there's an easy answer for that. A lot of people would love to just dive into that one and dog Carson Beck and bring up the Lamborghinis and what's happened and the karma and all those things. But I will tell you that it's not a hidden agenda what George is getting with Gunnar Stockton. I mean, Gunner's been with, I mean, to give Georgia fans a little bit of insight, Gunner's been with Mike Bobo for a long time. Gunner was recruited by Mike Bobo when Mike Bobo was at South Carolina with Will Muschamp. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but him and Bobo are pretty close. Already have a better relationship than Bobo and Beck from last year. Beck chose to stay by himself at his own place, and Gunner stays with 3 football players. I mean, he's in it. I mean, with the team. Tate Ratledge did a thing on the Texas game, and they said it was just something about when Gunner entered into the game in the SEC championship, there was just a different vibe, right? It felt like more of the team, and he goes back and he talks about it on this podcast that they used to do with some of the players, and he says, he's like, we just played more for Gunner. I can't explain it. I can just tell you that for a guy that's a football guy who's in it with us, I mean, he's going to talk a little bit of smack with you. He's going to act like when he misses a pass, he doesn't pout about it. He's like, it's kind of funny because he's like, golly, man. He's like, I could have done that better. And he's like, that's the reaction you have from totally like botching that throw. Whereas you got Carson Beck, who was, if he missed the throw, man, he would go to the corner and he would pout. And it just feels like it's going to be a loose thing with Gunner. There's not going to be so much pressure to perform at this perfection pace. There will be an understanding that we're being charged with performing at a high level, but there's no pressure to perform perfect. And I think that's what Carson Beck brought to the system. I think he expected perfection because he thought he was perfection. He acted like perfection. And he not only did that, he didn't really have a lot of people in his corner when it came down to it. He was a loner, and Gunner, Gunner hangs with his team, man. Like he's a team guy. And Gunner's looking pretty good on paper after some of these teams that are just like, you know what, I just lost my quarterback to NIL. What am I dealing with? Oh, you got to go get a quarterback that he hadn't even wore orange with you for, I mean, by the end of the year, he won't wear orange with you as long as 3-4 times that Gunner Stockton has dressed with this Georgia football team. So
Gunner's a guy you want in your foxhole, man. And I really think that the offense is going to be more prolific this year because, Gunner's he can run the ball.
Yeah.
And then you got a stable of running backs, and then you got receivers galore. So I'm expecting, this would be a great year for Bobo to jump out there and beat his average, and make it like 45 a game or 48 a game or something crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This offense has the potential to be really prolific with all the different weapons.
I agree. And I just like the thing that stood out to me was Bobo would have been with Gunner. I mean, Gunner decommitted from South Carolina when Bobo left. So, you got Muschamp at South Carolina. Muschamp goes and gets Bobo. Bobo's only with Muschamp for a year. He's not. And to me, Muschamp's biggest mistakes were always his offensive hires. I mean, Muschamp's always been able to coach defense. He's always been able to make good decisions, and he's had defensive talent in the NFL left and right. It's the offensive choices he made at Florida and the offensive choices that he made at South Carolina.
That's the biggest obstacle for all of your head coaches that are defensive minds. They
Right.
struggle. They struggle with getting the right guy at the helm on their offense. I
Right.
mean, even
Right.
Saban, he was always trying to fix that.
Yeah. And I heard it said best, and I think this might speak into some of the and even me, I'll raise my hand. I mean, I put it on TikTok that I thought Bobo was out, and do I have these? We're going to have this tussle back and forth about Bobo to lead up to the entire year. But the one thing I will tell you is this. I think what Georgia fans don't understand is that Kirby doesn't have a goal on offense. You know what Kirby's goal is? His goal is to score 13 points so he can squeeze your head off. He's going to sit on those 13. He's going to run the ball down your throat, and he knows if you give him 13, you're not going to beat him. If you give him 13 points, his defenses are going to be good enough to where you're not going to beat him unless you're seeing this Ole Miss type. But here's my thing. We didn't get those points that easy against that Ole Miss team or even that Bama team in the first half, right? But when we did, if we just had to score at too high of a pace. And I think we did it at Alabama, and I think we did it at Ole Miss, but it was too late. See, the reverse is what Kirby wants. Kirby wants to sit on your head and squeeze you. And he could care less, man. He doesn't need the offense to be flashy. The years that we were at our best on offense, in my opinion, was when our defense was putting us in great situations. You can say what you want to about how great our offense was under Monken with, with Brock and with Ladd and with Stetson and with all these, these stable of guys. But like the defense was continuously putting them in great situations. Yep. I mean, I'll never forget that Oregon game we opened up with. I mean, how many times did we get on the field and come off and Stetson didn't even put his helmet down and there was a turnover? And then we would go down and we would score. We had so much momentum. The offense thrived off the defense. And I think complementary football this year is something that will play a lot into how well we do this year. We can run the ball. If we can move the football, if we can get the defense the time it needs, if the defense can give the offense its time it's need and doesn't do stupid things like, get beat by the deep ball or allow these big plays to where the offense is like, I'm not only got to hit the field again after I just went 4 and out, but now I got to hit the field after 4 and out and I got to get a touchdown back because you didn't even give us an opportunity to regroup. Complementary football is overlooked because it just doesn't happen in the SEC. You see so many teams that are either great on offense and either mediocre or worse on defense, or they're just, they're Will Muschamp's. They got a great defense, but they can't figure out how to move the ball to save their lives.
Right. And
so it's going to be this, but I really like, I like Gunner, and what that spring portal window says about us not going after a quarterback says that Georgia's confident with Gunner, and they're even more confident with Puglisi as his backup. And so it says volumes that we didn't hop in that portal in the spring. So with Curtis behind him, you got Montgomery. I think this quarterback stable is good for a while. I really do. I like Montgomery. I mean, there's a lot of things you can say about this quarterback room, but it's going to be tough, man. And what I also see is Curtis looking at it and go, I'm the number 1 rated quarterback in the nation. And I see the line of quarterbacks that Georgia has set up, and I'm good. Like, I'll go in, I'll compete. I'm fine with it. And even if you just have an idea, I'll hit the portal. That's fine. At least you chose to come in and be competitive. Because as you saw today, Jackson Cantwell, he wanted the highest bidder, and he probably wants to go in where he can play immediately and be an impact, which says to me, I know it.
You see how big he is? He's a battleship. He's a battleship, man. Those little defensive tackles are going to run right by him in the ACC. Yeah. Well,
there's nothing but small in the ACC, right?
he would, as a battleship, he'd probably be better off in the SEC. But I'm glad he's down there.
Yeah. So as we're getting into this hour mark, let's go back and let's end the night on this. So we mentioned it to you, Rich Man. So we mentioned boom or bust, right? What do you think Georgia is more closer to doing this year? And that is a boom being a national championship, or a bust being not even making the playoffs. And my thing is that, I think you looked at Tennessee earlier on. I think that game gets a little bit easier in Knoxville as an early game. But I think you'll agree with me this year that the game that everybody has circled, for me, I don't want to give anything away, but I don't have Texas circled. I have Alabama circled, and I'll tell you why. It's because mentally, you have to beat Alabama this year. Mentally. I think if you're going to have a shot at the national championship, you don't need it to get in the playoffs. You don't need it to win the national championship. You don't need it to win the SEC championship. You don't need it to make the playoffs. I think that's the game you need.
You need it for your mental health.
To mentally get you to the end and know that psyche and that just something that hangs with you and lingers with you all year, because you hear it all year. Like you can lose to Alabama if you're Georgia. You can beat Texas. You can beat Texas again in the SEC championship. And the whole week leading up to Notre Dame, all you heard was Alabama, Alabama, Alabama. Their psyche, their moxie. Like, what is this going to be? One of those things. But you heard it in reverse, because the last few years we've beaten Notre Dame, right? The home and away series where there were close games, but we beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame had to deal with that, but they overcame the giant. And so I think it's the same way with Alabama. And I think Alabama's going to be, me personally, I'm hearing good things out of Alabama.
I'm hearing good stuff too. So
I'm excited about, previewing them. But so what do you think? You think it's more likely that this is a bust where we don't make the playoffs, or more likely that it's a boom and shot at the national title?
I think it's more of a boom. I really do. And I think, I just think 10-2 is the that's what I'm looking at.
I think a Georgia team with a 3.
And I don't even mind if we don't even play for the SEC championship. Just get to the playoffs. Take the easy way around.
Yeah, and this could be. I mean, we don't know what. I'm looking forward to summer meetings coming up. I'm looking forward to 2026 SEC schedules being released. That'll be a good show. But I agree. I think, and we're not those. I mean, I'll tell you. We trust me. We'll go back and we'll recreate those shows that towards the end of the year last year, where we were so frustrated with the offensive line and the inability to run the football and Bobo, and we'll have to really not have what I call a dream-worthy season of stepping in and going, all right, this is going to be the type of year we have. However, at the end of the day, I do think we're closer to a boom. I don't think 3 losses on this schedule is, and I think 3 losses may still get an SEC team in, even a Georgia this year, because it's going to be against I don't know, a Texas, an Alabama, maybe I don't know who else sneaks in there. I mean, but I think it could be done. You don't want to see it, but I think 2-3 losses, depending on. I mean, 3 losses didn't get Ole Miss in last year, but the SEC is going to be a gauntlet this year. You have a lot of teams that are searching. This will be the year of the quarterback. A lot of new quarterbacks in the SEC, lots, and a lot of quarterbacks that are on their second year. So this is, I mean, you start feeling a little bit better about Gunner, right? 3 years in the system. And maybe he doesn't have the DJ Lagway, arm talent, but he's got 3 years under his belt.
His arm's not bad, man.
No, I agree. Well, hey, we're at our hour. Man, really good conversation. Rich, man, it was good to be back, man. It was good to hang. Excited. I like building the excitement up. We're getting ready to really dive into previewing all 16 SEC teams, talking about taking some time to really see what Vanderbilt and what Ole Miss and some of these teams are bringing to the table, what the new faces are around their team, especially some of the teams that we're going to be playing. Excited to unveil any day now these new SEC schedules. It feels like we've just been in a rut for 2 years, because when they decided to play that schedule and then to flip that schedule, it was kind of a moot point to be excited about this year, because you were basically getting the same schedule, just home and away. So
when they drop those 26 schedules, we're going to have to review that Texas one and see how Cinderella it is. If it's Cinderella-esque. Yeah.
And I think too, you got some teams out there that if they don't capitalize on these schedules, the Missouris, the Ole Misses, I mean, there's some teams out there that have some really cakewalk schedules. I think Florida would love to flip the schedule around because I think they're on tap to do really well this year. I think they'll be a different team this year, but they have another tough schedule this year, right? But some of these, like you said, these Cinderella schedules, the Alabamas, and some of these teams out there that have had it made for the last few years, they may actually get something they have not had, and I'm hoping that Georgia. I can't imagine the last 2 seasons of scheduling for Georgia is. I mean, we've definitely got the fastball high and tight, so hopefully we get more of a little rinky-dink outside curveball. Not that we don't like competition. It's just let everybody experience that gauntlet and see how you feel when you hit the playoffs and if you're healthy as you want to be, and you know you're as battle tested. Yeah, you're battle tested, but you're also lacking as far as health is concerned playing all these big boys. But Rich, man, that's our time tonight, man. Thanks for joining everyone. If you have not done so, Twitter, Dogs Down South, YouTube, trying to get to 1,000 followers on YouTube, Facebook, Dogs Down South. Make sure you catch us. We are a little bit more intermittent right now in our shows every week, but we will be back on the grind once the season starts and ready to go pretty much weekly. Talking all things Georgia football, talking all things predictions for the games and the weekly games. And so can't wait. The countdown is on. I saw 110 days, I think, if I'm wrong. But so we're looking for double digits here soon. But for myself and Richman, you guys have a great night. Thanks for joining. And as always, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.